Don't buy a home in 2023. Sellers are panicking. Today, I am super fired up. I've got Michelle, who is my friend. She is also Kevin 24/7's wife. And you may have seen his content in the past. If you haven't, please check out his channel. But Michelle is his wife. She is a mother. She is also thinking about buying at this point and has been tracking the market along with Kevin in real time. We talk all the time about that kind of stuff, but she's also a tremendous content creator. Check her out at Squirrel Tribe 2.0. She puts out amazing content, shares exactly what's happening, and I'm going to give her the lead now because I've already talked too much. So, Michelle, what's up?
Hi, Chris. How's it going?
It's going.
We were just talking, the man and I, as I refer to Kevin, the man. We were just talking. Today is the last day of school here in Okaloosa County, Florida. Is the last day for our child in 7th grade. So we have been celebrating making it through another year as parents with a teenager with a little breakfast mimosa. Parents, y'all have to remember, celebrate yourselves. It's not just about the kids. Celebrate making it through another year of school with these children.
Hell yes. I'm breaking open my Bud Light, which of course is not a Bud Light. It's a Monster Energy drink.
There you go.
But you know that's how I roll.
Yep.
I always need more energy because I don't have enough, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So I am curious. You sent me some stuff. Or actually, Kevin sent me some screenshots of a property that you were looking at today. Let's talk about that. Let's dig into that.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, the man, Kevin, and I, and my daughter, she's in 7th grade. We moved here at the beginning of 7th grade. We decided we were tired of living in Georgia where nothing fun ever happened. During the pandemic, we realized there was nothing for us to do. And we said, you know what? Nothing real fun happens in 7th grade. Let's just sell our 5 acres in our house and move to the beach and get an apartment and try it out for a year and kind of see what happens, right? So that's what we've done. We've moved to Okaloosa County, Florida. We live in an apartment for the last year. And after this year, it was either stay and buy a house or a condo or go back to Georgia, depending on how our child felt about being in this area. Turns out she friggin' loves it. And so do we. So we plan on staying. And now we're in this apartment and we're thinking to ourselves, okay, well, now where do we go? Do we go house or do we go condo? And so we've been looking for the last year at different houses, different condos, paying attention to what is happening price-wise, paying attention to what areas are high rental areas versus which ones are more of the homeowner areas. Because with a child, you don't really want to be in an area that's totally those short-term rentals, you know, where everybody's changing out every 2 or 3 days and you don't really know who's your neighbor at that point, right? So we've been paying attention to a little bit of everything. And at this point in time, price-wise, still nothing really looks amazing and nothing looks like something we want to jump on. So right now we've just renewed our lease in our apartments because financially at this moment, it makes the most sense, but we're still keeping an eye out on what is happening with the houses and with the condos.
Yeah. So are you concerned about some of when you talk about condos, one of the big questions that people have is the insurability of those condos, right?
Yes, a lot of the ones we've looked at here. So unfortunately where we are, a lot of them were built in the late 70s, early 80s. And they have, when you look at their listings on Zillow, Trulia, wherever else you happen to look, Redfin, whatever, they have at the very bottom, non-warrantable. And when I see that, it immediately makes me go, okay, well, we're not looking at this building anymore. And we move on to something else. And I don't know if that has to do with the age of the building or with the kind of loans that come along with the buildings. I'm not 100% sure what non-warrantable means, but I know those phrasings, that word tends to push us off that path.
Yeah. So something that is not warrantable, and I'm actually kind of unfamiliar with that languaging, to be honest with you, because if there were to be, so a warranty, obviously you buy a new house, you get a warranty on everything on it. And if something breaks or goes wrong or whatever the case is, they're going to come in and make you whole and fix it or whatever the case is. The big concern that we're seeing now is because some of these buildings are older, the insurance qualifications have changed. So there are massive assessments that the buyers may be obligated to. And those assessments have to be disclosed up front because as a buyer, you want to know, am I walking into $100,000 bill? a $20,000 bill, a $2,000 bill, or no bill whatsoever. And many of the beachfront properties in my market have already addressed these issues. These assessments are over with, but it's not like that in every other market. So
it's definitely not like that here. So there's a place here called Silver Shells, which is one of the nicer condominiums directly on the beach. And they have one building that is designated for, what is the right word? Sorry, the man's over here. Low density, for low density, meaning it's not meant for short-term rentals or whatever else. And that building is the only one we want to look at. But even that one comes with a $25,000 fee, if you will, assessment to go towards their new roof or their whatever, to have in their back pocket in case something goes wrong. And that kind of throws us off from the whole condo area to begin with. And the HOAs are ridiculous. Anywhere from $1,800 to $3,200 per month on beachfront condos here it's a lot.
It is. And so some of that, well, you mentioned the money going into their back pocket. It's actually, and it is, but to say it differently, the regulations have changed in a way where if they are not capitalized on their balance sheets the right way, they don't get insurance. So there has to be these assessments must be known up front. You've got to ask those questions. And especially if you're in Florida and you're looking at anything that is in a high impact zone or a flood zone or, forward facing and for a storm surge, you definitely need to make sure that you're protected and know what you're buying. So it's people, I think, over dramatize that and turn it into, this is a crisis. Well, it is a crisis from one perspective, but it's also a protection, because if you don't have that, you are truly fucked if we get a real storm.
I fully agree. I fully agree. So that's actually where the man and I are kind of on the fence with. When we first moved here a year ago, we thought to ourselves, listen, we'll be in the apartment for a year. If the kid likes it and we decide to stay, we're going to do a condo. We want to be directly on the beach. We want the amenities. We don't have to worry about taking care of a yard or anything else. We want to just pay somebody else basically to do it. But now when we start looking at the differences between the HOA fees at a condo versus the HOA fees in maybe a residential neighborhood, the difference is staggering. And when you think about the insurance itself for beachfront versus inland versus on the harbor versus on the bay, the numbers are so incredibly widespread that it makes it difficult to figure out in the long run what makes the most sense for us as a family.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes what happens here in my market is people will start finding houses that they like. And inevitably, their eyes are drawn to the lower price points. And so they'll reach out to me. They're like, we found this incredible $500,000 home or $600,000 home. Like, we're all over it. And I'm like, yeah. Are you aware that this is in a mandatory membership golf club community where the buy-in is $150 right up front? And then the monthly fees are like, I don't know, whatever they are. And the yearly fee is like 50 grand. So you got to be aware of that. Anytime you find something.
What's the point?
Well, that's exactly. It's funny because I'll have people that say, well, we just want to have it, but we don't really golf. Like,
the HOA is like, don't give two shits. You're going to pay anyway because you're in the neighborhood.
Exactly. I'm like, well, then if you do me a favor before you go down that route, let's just have a conversation about what it looks like to have all of those resort amenities, but none of those fees, because there are properties that exist like that too. And then that's inevitably where we land. But they get caught on, they're like, oh my gosh, I found a $600,000 home. Well, no, you didn't.
So here, when you find a $600,000 home, it's in what's considered old Destin, meaning there is no rules or regulations. The person next to you could have a circus in their front yard. The person to the other side of you could have 15 boats in their front yard. And it's like, cool, there's no HOA, but at the same time, you're living in the middle of what looks like a dump at the beach, which makes absolutely no sense. So it's trying to find that hidden gem, if you will, in the middle of all this that is very difficult to do.
You mean to tell me that you don't want to have a meth lab next door?
No, not particularly. I mean, if I was into meth, maybe, possibly, but since I'm not, it doesn't really make sense.
Well, that makes sense.
I mean, a cotton candy lab next door, that'd be totally different, but meth lab, we're good.
Circus, okay. Cotton candy, okay. Meth lab, no bueno. That's a hard no. Okay.
Hard no.
Um,
Walking distance to like a seafood restaurant or a mimosa place, perfectly fine though.
well, so that's the funny thing you bring up walkability, right? Walkability. I'm sure, well, I know for certain because I was shopping in Buckhead. One of the things I liked about where I was potentially thinking about buying was the fact that I could walk to all kinds of cool stuff.
Hmm.
And walkability is not really a thing in certainly in my market. So I'm in Southeast Florida, so Boca, Boynton, Delray,
Yeah.
and there's a real small section within downtown Delray that has walkability, but it's very, very, very limited, and it's an ultra premium that you're going to pay for that lifestyle.
Hmm.
But is there anything that's kind of walkable up where you're at?
So that's the thing. The reason why we like where we are is because we could literally walk out from where we are and walk to restaurants, walk to a Chick-fil-A, walk to a Starbucks, walk to stores if we wanted to, and walk to the beach, literally cross the street and walk a little bit and we're at the beach. And it's absolutely amazing. However, price
I'm
wise,
coming to visit. I'm coming to visit. I've
you
just
need to.
invited myself.
You need to. You and the wife and the kids, come on, let's go. But the problem is that our apartments probably are at the higher price point. We're probably paying more for our apartment here than we would for a house somewhere in maybe Niceville or Crestview or Fort Walton or even Miramar or Santa Rosa because of where we are.
Mm, yeah.
The interest rates probably have a big deal to do with the mortgage too, though. But there's not the same
Well,
interest rates in apartments, thankfully.
yeah. Well, so what does the rental market look like from a year ago versus today?
We
Did
actually,
jack you up?
so yes, our rent went up $200 a month from last year to this year. But if we had not signed by a certain date, it would have gone up $300.
Oh,
They
so they
gave us
got you.
a very small window of sign by this date, you'll only go up $200 for your rent itself. But if you wait one day later, it's going to go up $300.
So
Basically
they
10%.
so they got a gun to your head.
Basically, yeah. Because they give you less than 2 weeks to decide. And if you don't decide by then, you're pretty much screwed. And they give you that option 2 or 3 months before your lease is even up and you need to re-sign. So it made it hard for us because we had already started looking at houses. We thought about moving to this area, this area, this area. But because we would not know for a fact if we could close on a house in that time frame, we had to re-sign the lease with the apartments to be on the safe side. Now, to break a lease with the apartment is going to cost us almost $8,000. So it's like, you can't do that. Plus, there's other fees that they hide in there. So it's like you're stuck here for another year, even though technically it has the resort amenities that we want. It is a very nice apartment complex, but it's not directly on the water. It's not a house. There is no backyard. There is no 2-car garage, none of that kind of thing. But it feels like we are pretty much bullied, I guess is the word, into staying where we are as opposed to looking outside of the apartment market.
Right. And then they got you trapped with so I'm assuming it's 2 months rent,
What?
or is it a flat fee?
Flat fee.
If flat fee. Okay. All right. So they got you coming and going.
Basically.
Gotcha. So, okay. That brings us to the properties that you were looking at today.
Oh, yeah. So listen, if you decide you want to do month to month here, let's say we had decided to get a house because we looked at a house a few months before the renewal. If we had decided to get a house and we wanted to stay here maybe 3 months instead of a full year, that month to month fee is more than most people are paying for a mortgage on a $2 million home for a 3-bedroom apartment. It is absolutely ridiculous.
That's crazy. Well, that sounds a lot to me like the seasonal market here. So, rental, I'm making up numbers. So let's pretend you've got a normal rental over by the beach, and it's $4,000 a month, right?
Okay.
Well, during the season, that could easily be $8,000 a month,
Yep.
or higher. So you can double or triple your rental income during the season, depending on which market you're in and what type of product that you have. And it sounds like that's kind of what they're doing to you in terms of the month to month. Okay, yeah, we'll give you a month to month, but you're going to pay out the wazoo for it.
And what's interesting is you're not allowed to Airbnb in this place, which thankfully I'm thankful for that. You're not allowed to. However, I still feel like there's maybe 1 or 2 places in here that Airbnb, because we'll hear a little rager going on every once in a while that normally you wouldn't hear. But we pay attention to all of the condos and the hotels around here. And in the off season, you'll see there's a hotel maybe a mile away that in the off season is $89 a night. But once you hit July, that thing is $359 a night. Same hotel, Same location, just different time.
Yeah. They get
It's
they know when to get you.
exactly.
So you were looking at some houses today.
We were. So the house that I sent Kevin this house that we had actually looked at probably 4 or 5 months ago when we were really looking into the housing market, trying to decide if that's the route we wanted to go. And this house is about 20 minutes from where we are now. It's not on the beach, but it is closer to the bay. So you're closer to water technically. And then you have a house and you're in a whole entire neighborhood. And so we went to look at it. It was listed in the mid 600s, I believe.
Yep.
And we went to look at it and it was nice. The neighborhood itself was nice. It has that beachy look or whatnot. There's a lot of new construction going up. But we decided to pass on it because of how tight the whole neighborhood seemed and how it seemed very unfinished and very sporadic, I guess is the right word. And I noticed today Zillow sent me an email that said, hey, this house you looked at however many months ago is still on the market. So I pull it up and I look at it and I noticed they went from trying to sell it to trying to rent it for cheaper, trying to rent it for cheaper, taking it off the market, putting it back on the market. It's like they are bipolar with this house. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what the market is doing. They have no idea what they can get for it. And I feel really bad for the homeowners, but my brain wants to go, listen, I'll offer you half of what you're trying to sell it for, because that's really all that it's worth. You're trying to milk a dead cow basically over there with these prices on these houses.
Well, what's crazy is I looked at the listing too that you sent me, and it
Mhm.
looks like they actually raised the price from their original listing. So it didn't sell at
Yeah.
629, and then they canceled it, and then they played the games with the rental. And so when they put it back on the market, well, it didn't sell at 629, so let's increase it to 649
That'll
because
definitely do it.
because nothing's changed about the house,
Yeah.
and the market isn't actually going higher; it's going lower, as evidenced by the numbers that I shared with Kevin the other day
Mhm.
in your market.
Now, the only
So,
thing that changed was the house, a house has been built next to it. So it doesn't look as vacant as it did before, although that vacant look actually made it more appealing to me. And I could have understood a higher price at that point. Now there's two houses on either side of it. So it looks sandwiched in between. And then they come out with a higher price, which makes no sense to me.
so now they're expecting you to pay a premium for a loss of privacy,
Mhm.
which last I checked, loss of privacy is not a good thing. It's a bad thing, which lands us in the topic that I wanted to talk about with you, which is Ron DeSantis.
Oh, I like how we moved our way over here. I love it. Let's go.
Well, I like it because a lack of privacy, and there's a lot of folks out there right now that think that Ron and his policies are taking away privacies for some individuals, and for
Mhm.
others, maybe it's giving them more privacy. I want to hear your thoughts on that because I know as a mother, I'm a father too, and obviously I'm not a mother, although I'm a bad motherfucker. But that's a different story altogether. Um, I lost my train of thought. But there's a lot of controversy going on right now. There's a lot of people out there who have come at me with lots of different accusations, either too white or too much white privilege or all kinds of stuff, and have gone.
You heard that one.
Yeah, I did. They've said that Kevin is not black enough. I've heard all kinds of crazy stuff.
Which is the most ignorant thing I've ever heard. Not black enough. All that means is that you have been swayed by media to tell you what black is supposed to be, which is fucking stupid, but that's okay.
Perfect answer.
Yeah, there you go.
But where I'm going also with this is, so DeSantis has he's stepped in. He's said Florida is where woke goes to die, and I know Kevin had some thoughts on this, and I just kind of want to hear what you think on this because the one thing I have, and it's not, I don't want to say it's against DeSantis, but what I don't understand about DeSantis is really only one policy, and that's as it relates to abortion and his 6-week ban.
Okay.
That to me is not that's a move backward, not a move forward. I don't necessarily agree with that particular position. I do agree with most of everything else that I've heard from him, but I figured that's the hot topic issue that's going to be brought up in the election. So who better to ask than you, because I am not a woman.
Okay, so here's my thought on that. I will 100% just put it out there. So hopefully your audience is okay with a blatant female. So here's the thing. My body, my choice, plain and simple. I could give two shits what a court says, what a man says. It's my body, it's my choice. If you want to make it so a woman can't take care of her body, then you also need to make it so that a man can't impregnate her. Pretty plain and simple. If a woman's not allowed to get an abortion because a man knocked her up, the man shouldn't be allowed to knock her up to begin with. Make the men get vasectomy so the women don't have to worry about abortions. That's pretty much how I feel about it. You can't go after a woman's body. A woman can't
Drop the mic.
sperm. Plain and simple. It takes sperm to do it, and the sperm comes from the guy.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, allegedly, I guess we're going to find out in the comment section if people believe that to be true or not.
Allegedly. With the way everybody's trying to change their bodies, everything that's happening these days, the science that comes along with it, the turkey basters you can use, the needles you can inject, there's all different kinds of ways to get knocked up at this point in time. But when you go back to the man and woman conjoining of it all, it takes a man and a woman to put the two things together. And if the man can't shoot, then the woman can't get knocked up. So
so thank you for the visual with the turkey baster. I really appreciated that. Which we're off the rails.
But I'm just saying, why is it that we penalize and make things difficult for the woman when without the man, the woman would not be in the situation that she's in?
It's always the man's fault. Everybody knows this.
So use condoms. Well, condoms are only 97% effective. That 3% is how some things end up the way they are. The man could say he's done this and done that, and the woman believes him, and then she ends up pregnant. The woman can be on birth control. The birth control fails, and then she ends up where she is. And then you have people who want to bitch and moan that a woman needs to be on government assistance because she can't afford the child that she's raising. Well, she also didn't plan on getting pregnant, but the guy lied to her, or the condom broke, or the birth control didn't work. And here you are.
And here we are. So
I told you you're going to get.
We covered a lot of ground, and I love it. So I'm going to go back to the very basic essence of and first of all, I agree. Your body, your choice. I think that I hope that right now the game that DeSantis is playing is trying to go so right that he differentiates himself from Trump. And then as we get closer to go time, he kind of moderates that position and comes back to something more normal, which is my body, my choice.
Now, the whole reason I would just put it out there, the whole reason that my family moved to Florida was because of the views that DeSantis had on the whole pandemic and the masks and the mandates and everything else. And the 2A. The whole reason we moved here was based off of what Florida allowed and what they did not pander to and what they did not fall victim to. It made it very appealing for us to be here versus in Georgia. And that hasn't changed. I still believe that this is still the best place for us, despite not agreeing with every single thing that the governor does for the state. But majority wise, this is still the best place for us.
Yeah. And I think, as evidenced by the fact we got 1,400 people that are moving here every day. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the only topic I think that is going to probably sway the vote of a lot of women out there. And so I hope that somebody gets in his ear and talks some common sense into him, because he has been very reasonable and very common sense based up until this point. And on that particular issue, I just don't think that I don't agree.
You're talking about the 6 weeks issue, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me tell you, as somebody who has a child, I did not know I was pregnant until 8 weeks. At 6 weeks, I never would have known. So that whole at 6 weeks thing is a very big factor to me. However, I do realize that the religion aspect that jumps in here is going to have its own thoughts and its own ideas on it versus the woman's body. It's a hard line to draw, and it's a hard side to pick for a woman, for a man, whatever else you want to call it, but it is definitely a hard issue to be 100% set in.
Yeah, well, that brings up the next question, which you just alluded to. Okay. What is a woman?
A woman? Oh,
hey, this one got Matt Walsh demonetized.
This is what got Matt Walsh demonetized. This is where you want to go? Because I'll go for it.
I think we have to.
Oh, sure, why not? Okay, so what is a woman? A woman is somebody who is born with a uterus, who is born with the ability to have a child, who is born with the ability to nurse a child, who is born with female chromosomes, and that is all. Now, not all women can have children, can bear children, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It is something that happens inside your body, but you are still a woman. These men who decide that cutting off their junk and taking a couple of pills to make their estrogen a little higher, you're not a woman. You're just a man who is highly confused. You can't.
This has been our best last video ever.
What did you say?
I said this has been our best last video ever.
Listen, feel free to edit me, to do whatever.
No, hell no. This is good.
I'm a very opinionated female, which a lot of guys, for some reason, can't seem to handle. But I have to assume that those are the same guys who don't have a full set of testicles. So the problem here is the men who decide that they want to be women. Listen, Chris, I saw a video yesterday, and I don't know what it was on, but it was a man, clearly a man. Everything about him said man, except for he happened to have curly hair and painted his nails and called himself a woman, called himself a mother. And when I tell you the immediate sense of I will punch you in your fucking face that hit me was absolutely ridiculous, because a man is not a mother. You can be a father all day long, but you're not a mother.
I don't think I can add anything to that. I think you basically just said everything there is to say about that. While we're on a streak here, let's just go straight to
Kevin.
Make sure you check him out on Twitter before it's too late.
Which is why right now is a good time for you to follow me on Twitter.
We're going to end this, and Chris is going to be like, so this was fun, but I'm not putting this shit on my channel because.
Oh, no, I'm definitely airing this. So, but let me ask you this. Being that we're talking about all these hot button issues, How do you feel about Disney?
I love Disney. I have no issue with Disney. Here's the reason why. Let me explain why I do not have an issue with Disney. I do not have an issue with the whole, my phrase on my channel and in my life is you do you, boo. You do you. You do what makes you happy. I don't have to agree with it, but unless you are physically harming me or my children or my family, it does not matter to me what you do with your personal life. If you are a man who decides that he wants to be a woman, do you, boo. Do I think it's right? No. Am I going to shit on you for it? Technically, no. If you get in my face about it, we're going to go back and forth. But generally speaking, you do you. The Disney thing, I think, is absolutely stupid to crap on them for trying to be inclusive to everybody. Same thing as, you remember back in like the 50s when there's this whole thing called fucking segregation and super racism? I wasn't a fan of that when I was born and as a child, and I'm not a fan of it now. I wouldn't have been a fan of it in the 50s and the 60s. And that is something that it feels like DeSantis, unfortunately, is trying to do a new form of segregation, if you will. It's not black and white, but it's straight versus gay. And I personally don't feel that's right. I think everybody should be allowed to live their life however makes them happy, however they see fit, as long as it is not physically harming somebody else.
I don't disagree. And I think what has actually happened is that, and I say this all the time, that the market is always right. And the market has spoken on what they feel about Disney, because Disney lost 300 million subscribers or something close to it. They lost on Disney Plus, and they lost an enormous amount of revenues. So the market has spoken and they pivoted accordingly. And now it's being I'm not having mimosas. Publicized. There you go. No, politicized. It's being politicized as something that it's not. And the truth is, the market has spoken. The market has made it very clear we don't want this product, and that Disney is now turning it into something different.
Now, I want to just throw this in there. I don't look at Disney, the parks, the same way I look at Disney, the TV shows, Disney, the movies, Disney, the whatever else. I look at them completely separate. And here's why. When I go to Disney parks, I don't feel like I am being bombarded with gay, transgender, whatever propaganda. Now, when I do watch Disney shows, I can see where they're trying to be more inclusive. And as somebody who's not in that genre, I can see how it feels like being pushed into it. Now, for people who are in that genre, whether they are gay, lesbian, transgender, whatever else, I can see how it feels more inclusive. So you have to be willing and able to step back as a human being and look at it as what it is. As a white person, that'd be like me being mad that there's a TV show with only Black people in it. Why? I mean, they don't need to have white people in it to make it a good TV show, just like a white show doesn't need Black people in it to make it a good show.
Right.
You don't need a gay person in it to make it a good show, but you don't need only straight people in it to make it a good show.
Would you be mad if Dukes of Hazzard was remade with all Black people?
Did you hear him? Would you be mad if Dukes of Hazzard was remade with all Black people? No, but I do believe that at that point it would become a comedy. And I don't know how else to phrase that. I feel like it's an ironic comedy at that point.
Yeah. Would I be mad? No, but the market will always be right. So no matter what the product is, and you made a good point, the park is a very different product than their entertainment Disney Plus division. They're different divisions.
The park are still the same. It's still Pirates of the Caribbean. It's still Dumbo. It's still Aladdin. They haven't gayed out or transgendered out the rides. That's not the thing. But they do in their stores now have things with rainbows on them to go towards the gay community. Okay, cool. That's like being mad that there are cartoon characters out there with Afro puffs that are geared towards the Black community. I have no problem with that. Geared towards the Hispanic community, the Asian community. So getting upset that something is now geared towards the gay community makes no sense. Towards the transgender community doesn't, to me personally, make sense. Everybody wants to feel like they are seen, they are understood, they are part of a main community. So I don't see a problem with it personally.
Yeah. Well, I also think that the market has spoken in one sense, but also my kids love Disney. Mm-hmm. My wife loves Disney. Mm-hmm. I have never been to Disney more in my life than since when I got married. Before that, I thought you were
going to stop at never been. I'm like, how the hell do you live in Florida? Never been.
No. I'm just saying, when I grew up, I remember going to Disney 3 times, and that was over my entire 18 years or whatever that was. We go, it feels like 3 times a month because they love it so much.
Yes.
So despite what.
Next time you don't want to go, supplant me for you, and I
will. You're actually, that's not a bad idea. We'll just swap. Yeah. You and them can go, and me and Kevin will go do our thing. But it's also, people have called me out on it because I've been critical of certain things, and I've talked about certain issues that have happened in the past, and they're like, "Well, you're a hypocrite," and it's like, I'm not a hypocrite. I love my family, and if my kids,
I don't think that's being a hypocrite. I don't believe people should drink and drive yet. I'm going to have a mimosa, right? And I'm not going to drink and drive. I'm sitting here. It's not the same thing.
Right. Exactly. I think people are just looking for something to get triggered about, and everybody is more fragile today than they ever have been in history.
Well, it's because the media pushes it that you have the right to be fragile, and if anything feels wrong to you, then definitely it's wrong, and everybody should bitch and moan and cry about it, and we'll pander to you instead of the people who are strong enough to understand that there are different points of views on everything.
Yeah, and that's what we need. That's why I think your channel, like Kevin's channel, and hopefully people feel the same way about my channel, is we're sharing the truth as we see it based on our experience in real time. And we're not going to back down from whatever the mob mentality might be. I'm not going to pander to that. I'm going to tell it like it is. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to share what's happening. And if you don't like it, well, I'm sorry.
So here's the thing. Your truth and my truth may be totally different, but it doesn't mean we can't still be friends. That's the other thing. A lot of people, for some reason, feel like if you don't see 100% eye to eye, that you have to be enemies, which is just ignorant beyond all belief. Like, you can be a Trump supporter and somebody else can be a Biden supporter, and I can be friends with both. It doesn't mean that there's anything innately wrong with a person just because you don't immediately see eye to eye on a subject.
Which takes us back to the name of our country, the United States of America, not the divided states of America, not the segregated or compartmentalized or chopped up, sliced, diced, and turned into some other thing, state of America. It's united. And we don't have to agree on everything, but we do have to respect and work together to find solutions to whatever the issues are. And there's a lot of them today.
I agree.
So, all right. I think with that in mind, we're going to wrap this puppy up. Squirrel Tribe 2.0. I love you. You're the best. Thank you for doing this. check out her channel. And of course, follow me on Twitter, where you will always be able to find me in the event that this content ever gets taken down or I get thrown off of YouTube. But I'm going to keep telling it like it is. So check out my next video. And until next time, peace.